Hey, welcome back to the Knit Your Stress Away podcast, where knitting meets calm, creativity, and self-care that actually works in real life. Today is going to be a short and sweet episode that we are going to talk about not necessarily about how to knit, but it's about why knitting helps you feel better. And I know that a lot of you are already very familiar with the concept of knitting for stress relief, but let's dive a little bit deeper into why this actually works so well. So let's get started. Welcome to Knit Your Stress Away, the podcast for overwhelmed moms who are done with doom scrolling and ready for something slower. Hi, I am Nadine. I am a mom, a knitting coach for beginners, and proud screen time dropout who believes that peace starts with just one stitch. If you've ever craved a quiet moment to yourself, this show is your cozy permission slip. Let's trade notifications for needles and turn stress into self-care together. All right, let's get into this episode. It's going to be short and sweet, but you are going to love finding out how this all comes together and what you can actually do about getting more of this knitting time into your day. So you may have noticed this when you actually grab your project and you're knitting needles and you start knitting, that your brain actually slows down as soon as your hands are starting to stitch. This may not be the case if you're knitting something very complicated, where you have to pay a lot of attention or you have to read a pattern really closely, but it definitely is the case with something that I call mindless knitting, where you are just grabbing it and you know exactly where you are in your pattern because it's very repetitive and the stitches are just repeating themselves over and over, and you can just start without having to think about it a lot. But your brain actually starts slowing down, and that has to do with your hands making these repetitive movements, and these repetitive motion signals the parasympathetic nervous system that it's time to rest and restore. So you're getting into this rest and restore mode in your nervous system. Your breath will slow down just by moving your hands in this repetitive motion and sort of, having your brain focus on that repetitive motion as you do it. Even if it's, again, what I put in air quotes, mindless knitting, where it's something that you don't have to think about a lot, but you're looking at it, you're doing it. And there is a connection, obviously, between what your hands are doing and what your brain is looking at and what your eyes are looking at, what your brain is, making you do in that moment. So all that together actually calms your nervous system down and your breath slows down, your heart rate evens out, which is pretty fantastic. Your brain starts to focus and it's no longer scattered all over the place. It still happens, and you probably notice that when you knit, that yes, your brain starts to slow down, your thoughts start to slow down, but you still have moments where you kind of occasionally oh, gotta do this, oh, gotta do that. But it gets less and less. And if you notice, and if you're somebody who has meditated in the past or is a person who meditates, quite often, then you will notice these parallels between knitting and meditating. It's very similar, right? You're basically forcing your brain to sort of slow down, hit the brakes a little bit, focus on something, one thing only. In meditation, it's often the breath. But in knitting, obviously, it's your hands and the movement that you make with your hands as you knit. You can also focus on the feel of the yarn in your hands. That's also a great way to become mindful and have that kind of slow your nervous system down effect. But you will also notice, even in meditation, the goal isn't to completely shut your brain off and, not sort of have any thoughts outside of what you're doing in that meditation. The goal is to train your brain to come back to what you're doing over and over and over and over. And that is the practice. Meditation is often referred to as a practice. So that would be your practice as you knit as well. You are training your brain and to not have these thoughts as often, but more importantly, you're training your brain to come back to what you're doing, to train it to be mindful for, let's say, 10 minutes, 15 minutes at a time. And for me, oftentimes when I do start knitting, I notice that effect. But then I have thoughts like, gotta do this. Oh, and I remember something that I need to write down or whatever. And oftentimes when my phone is near me, I put my knitting down and I grab my phone. So you've heard me say this trick before. This is definitely something for you to try. Take that phone and put it a little further away. Now, you have heard me talk about using an app to track your rows. There's multiple ways to track your rows. You can do that. You can, print your pattern out, track your rows on there. But if you do happen to use the app, then I would suggest have that app open, close everything else so that you're not super tempted to, grab your phone and just kind of jot stuff down or go on the social media, because once you do that, you go probably down the rabbit hole because you're not just doing that one thing that you meant to do on there. Besides, anything that you feel like you need to do on social media is probably not a must do. So train your brain to stick with the knitting, to focus on it, and to come back to the knitting every time you feel like you're kind of going off trail a little bit. And for me, really what happens here, and this is not just my experience, this is how knitting works, so similarly to meditation, in a world that constantly pulls us in a million directions in our brains. Knitting is actually the anchor that pulls you back into the present and that gives you that mindful break that is so important for your brain and for your nervous system to have as you're trying to regulate it, right? So the screen time and the phones and the social media stimulation, all this input actually dysregulates our nervous system, while knitting and meditation, they have the same effect, but knitting, it's just more fun. And you make something in the process. After a meditation, you don't have a scarf to show for, right? But it re-regulates your nervous system. The calm, rhythmic, and meditative nature of knitting really, really helps with that. And again, you're productive in a really fun way. It's not the productive, I'm checking things off my list, but you are actually making something that you can then use, wear, give away, all those awesome things. And I think that's just such a great benefit of knitting that meditation doesn't have. Not saying that meditation is bad. I meditate. I love it. But if I can get the same effect with knitting, I like that. I think that's awesome. Personally, I like to knit every single day, which I highly recommend just for, peaceful, quiet moments during your day. And I just enjoy it so much. And I want to make progress on my project, of course. So I try to work it in every single day. If you're feeling like you're still having a little bit of trouble working in 15 to 30 minutes of knitting every day, I have an actual super fun and brand new free download for you that you can grab now at the knittingmamas.com. It is called Make Time to Stitch, and it's a 3-day reset where you can find simple ways to reset your time and make some more time for knitting. I think you're going to love it. So go ahead to theknittingmamas.com and download the new freebie, Make Time to Stitch. But I also really love using knitting as an actual tool for times when I feel anxious or nervous or somehow kind of off, I guess. And as women, we know that that's also often kind of tied to our cycles. So there's times during the month where you're like, ooh, I'm feeling that a little more than normal. Knitting is such a great tool. And in that moment, it's not even necessarily about what you're making, but it's about having a project always available that gives you this oh, you know what? I'm just going to grab this real quick. I'm going to sit here for 5 to 10 minutes and I'm just going to knit through these anxious, nervous feelings that I'm having right now. And it's one of my favorite ways to get through those. I throw some essential oils on, I sit down, put some headphones in, and then I knit. And I can feel that tension melting away. It is so amazing that this actually really, truly works, just like meditation does, to calm the brain, calm your thoughts, calm your nervous system, and just kind of gives you an actual reset. If you haven't tried it in that mindful way, I encourage you to do that the next time you feel a little anxious and, or whatever, PMSy or grab your needles and just make it a mindful break. And in those moments, I find it sometimes a little hard to say, oh, you know what? I just need to take a couple breaths. You can do that while you knit because you have something tangible that you're actually doing and you can take deep breaths as you're doing that. And definitely, like I just said, it's not about the project. It's not the type of project that you're grabbing. I would say just grab any easy project that you might have going on the side that you can just start and stop without feeling like you have to get into the pattern again. But it's about the pause and the break, because when you pick up your needles, You're not just creating something cozy. Yes, you are, which is amazing, but you are giving your brain a break and you are reminding your body that you're safe and it's going to be okay, right? And this is definitely what I want more women to know, that knitting is not just this amazing, cozy hobby that looks really cute and, pretty, and we're making nice stuff. All that is amazing and great, but it is restorative and it's really truthfully self-care tool that you can incorporate and implement into your daily life as something to help you feel grounded and feel good. So, how do you actually experience this kind of calm? Like I just mentioned already, if your only trouble is to make time for your knitting hobby that you already know how to do, you can grab the 3-day reset, make time to stitch. It will help you carve out more time through very easy to implement strategies. And you don't need to overhaul your entire schedule. So you can just go grab it at theknittingmamas.com. Or if you haven't knit in a while or never, that's great too, because you can just jump right in and learn with us. I have created a beginner-friendly knit your own headband workshop that is now on demand. So you can just grab it. You can watch it whenever the time is right for you. You can follow along with the workbook, and it guides you through your very first or your first in a long time finished project. You'll be making a headband that you either can wear yourself or you can give it away. And the whole thing is about 90 minutes long, and you're going to learn how to make this thing from start to finish. You can find the workshop at the same website, theknittingmamas.com. And if you have any questions about it, I am always here to help. You can just send me a DM on Instagram. I am at @theknittingmamas_. And again, if you need help just to make more time for your knitting project, I got you covered there too. Knitting is one of the gentlest and most accessible ways to care for your mind, your body, and your soul. And I think that's just such a great benefit of this hobby. You can take it anywhere. Anyone can learn how to do it. It's so accessible. I think it's just fantastic. And if you have been craving the calm, don't grab another planner, don't grab another app, don't even meditate. Just start knitting. Just start knitting. And it doesn't take hours and hours a day to really feel that calming energy that this hobby can bring to you, right? One stitch at a time, one breath at a time. We can do this. This is the break that you deserve. This is the break that you need to take for yourself. And I am so excited to walk alongside you, either teaching you how to knit or helping you create more calm moments in your day so that you can do more of this knitting that you love so much. I hope today's episode gave you permission to take this break. Tag me at @theknittingmamas_ on Instagram. Tell me how knitting has helped you feel better. I would love to feature your story in a future episode, or also, of course, shout you out on my Instagram. If you're tagging me, I can see it. So until next time, remember, even one row is enough. Take that break. You got this, mama. Talk to you on the next episode. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on today's episode. I hope you're walking away with a bit more inspiration and a few ideas to make your self-care a priority. If today's chat gave you a little boost, I'd love it if you could leave a 5-star review on iTunes. This helps other moms discover the podcast and start finding more calm and creativity in their day as well. And don't forget to join us over in the Knitting Mamas community on Facebook by going to theknittingmamas.com/group. Thanks again, and remember, you deserve time for yourself to recharge and feel your best.